Hi everybody, welcome back to the Yoso Tech Tracks YouTube channel. I had some requests about this and I'm going to make you guys a quick detailed video about my DIY front wheel alignment. The example for today is my 2016 Ram 1500 truck. As you guys know, in the previous video I did some maintenance up here and the rain actually let off, so it's a good chance to take off the wheels and make a quick video for everybody to see, to share, and hopefully this gives some people some insight and some knowledge, and maybe save a few dollars. If you can do this yourself, you can do a pretty quick, easy, accurate home driveway alignment for your vehicles, if you guys are interested. So let's get started. First of all, you need to jack up the vehicle. You have to make sure everything is level. Such in this, it's supported underneath the lower ball joints for me, because I want to be able to turn the wheels easily when I adjust the tie rod ends. I know for this vehicle everything is dead straight. There is no thrust line. The thrust line is basically when the rear axle, looking from the top, is twisted to the left or the right, which is going to make a thrust angle on the vehicle that you have to counteract with the steering. However, this vehicle does not have rear adjustments for this, and unless you get into major accidents, it should not deviate from factory. When bushings wear out, for example in the back, this has a multi-link suspension, it might give some issues, but that is for a very used vehicle. And the first thing that you do before any alignment, you have to make sure the vehicle is in good shape. All the suspension control components, the steering components have to be tight. There cannot be any play, otherwise it's not going to give a very accurate measurement for yourself, and those parts that are loose are going to loosen up very quickly, and it's going to basically make your job pretty useless. So number one thing is, you have to make sure everything is in working order. There's no loose components such as bushings, uniball, ball joints, whatever you have in your vehicle, tie rod ends, whether it's outer, inner, in this electric power steering rack, ball joints, upper and lower. You get the idea. Pretty much everything has to be good shape, wheel bearings, so on and so forth. So for my little demonstration here, as I said, I took off the wheels just to give you guys a quick, easy access to the camera. I can go all the way inside and show you guys the details. Excuse the noise, the neighbors are building a fence for the last couple of days. Hopefully they get it wrapped up quickly, because again, the rain is supposed to come down for the next couple of days here. So let's get to it. What I use is just a couple of these extrusions. These are very straight aluminum pieces. Let me go over to the other side. It is identical. And basically I clamp these squares, straight edges, whatever you have that's, you know, is very close to being 90 degrees. I clamp them on and I take a measurement basically from the end of this point, and I made a mark that's 1 foot, 12 inches, as close as possible. I have tape measure that is graduated to 32nd of an inch. I used to have one that is 64th graduations, however it is very hard to see, but 32nd of an inch is a very good, accurate tool to use for this kind of a thing. And 1 foot, 12 inches from this point to here, as well as on the other side, from this point right to this line. And I just find any place that I can compare the left and the right side equally, and right now I know that this point to here along both sides is pretty much as close as I can to being straight. If I had a laser pointer, a laser level, I could work up a contraption that can make this job a little bit more modern, high-tech, but it is not required. In the olden days, vehicles were just aligned with strings and these kind of a method, and it still works true for anything today. It's much easier on a truck like this because basically there is an open space between the rear of the wheels, if you can imagine drawing a straight line across, there's nothing for the tape measure to catch. As well as in the front, I just basically lower these arms down so I can get a nice straight access across. So basically you need to have your steering wheel pointed straight, because that's how you want it driving down the road. And then we can start comparing the measurements. I know caster on this truck is pretty much dead on, and camber I measured last time is also the alignment of the wheel. This is positive camber, this is negative camber. That is just the relationship of the tire to the ground, looking at it from the front. However, for today's demonstration, I am mostly interested in checking the toe, which I did already. And as I also mentioned in previous videos, the family just came back from a roughly 8,000 to 9,000 kilometer trip, driving from Toronto, Ontario to British Columbia, the west coast of Canada. And the tires are wearing very nicely. There's no vibrations, shimmy, unusual noises, wear patterns. So I did this alignment exactly the same way a couple of months ago, and nearly 10,000 kilometers, and I'm very happy with it. So this is not an adjustment, this is just to show you guys how I did it, and if you guys are interested, this will give you some answers. So basically, I take a straight edge. This is also an extrusion, it's very straight, and I can first of all compare one side to the other. If you can imagine, it's hard for me to hold this, but if I were to put this straight edge very carefully right across this line, I can actually compare it to the other side. And looking from the top, if you can imagine these arms being an L bracket, if you have any kind of a toe in or out problem, or the steering is not straight, this will tell you very quickly which way the wheels are pointed. For example, if this line were to be parallel but going that way, that means you have a toe out in this wheel. And you basically loosen up this jam nut. You can back it off a little bit. For example, in this vehicle, I had to hold this boot so it doesn't get twisted when I turn this tie rod. And you can put a wrench, for example, on this Ram truck, this is a 17 millimeter. This jam nut, I believe, was a 24 millimeter. And I believe this outer tie rod end is also 24 millimeter, but I just used an adjustable wrench just to hold it, loosen the stuff up, and you can turn this and it will influence basically the steering knuckle, towing out or towing in. When I compare these from side to side, I'm going to go back on the passenger side. I don't want to disturb the neighbor. They're also out on the other side doing some gardening. So basically, when I compare these measurements from front to back, and when you put these kind of straight edges on, and I'm very happy with how this lines up. Let me extend this a little bit further down, but everything is very close to a good starting point, because when you have these angles matching up on both sides parallel, and you know the angle and the measurement is 90 degrees here, it's perpendicular, and you have an equal measurement, you can actually compare side to side with a straight edge or a laser pointer, laser level, if you can have one of those, or even a string, if you can very carefully measure across from one side to the other. That's going to be your starting point. Again, you have to make sure your steering wheel is straight, and then you can use your tape measure. Once again, I have 30 seconds of an inch all the way up on this tape measure, and I can start measuring, for example, from that side across, and I can compare the front. As I said before, I just angle these arms down on this side, also here, until I get them nice and straight, and I can have a nice equal measuring point without having to worry about the tape measure hitting anything in between. So it's going to give me a very accurate readings on the toe from this side to the other side, and then I can pair it to the back. Once again, I just find a point where the tape measure is not going to get obstructed by anything underneath. For example, here there is the oil pan, there is the drain bolt, skid plates, anything that will give you an inaccurate measurement. And I just adjust it if I need to. Again, same as the other side. Jam nut, loosen up, back it off a little bit. You have to hold the tie rod end. You have to hold this boot from twisting and turning because you don't want this to twist. It can tear, it can rip, and then dirt gets inside and it will wipe out the parts inside. And you can basically thread this tie rod using the 17mm wrench. If you turn it counterclockwise, again, it'll loosen it up and it'll make it tow out. If you thread it in, it will tow it in. And you compare the measurements, and you want this thing to be very parallel driving down the road, nice and straight, and you're going to have a very cheap, quick, ineffective, and do-it-yourself alignment method this way. Again, make sure the vehicle is level, make sure it's jacked up safely, make sure your driveway is as square as possible. If it's not, it doesn't matter. You can always add a piece of wood or something underneath the tires to make sure everything is nice and straight and parallel, just the way the vehicle would drive down the road. So this is the way I do my alignment at home. I've never had any trouble in the past with anything as far as tire wear after this, or any kind of a steering wheel not pointing straight. So I hope this gives you guys a little bit of an insight on how I do it. Maybe this is something you guys might try yourself. If you're comfortable with removing wheels, if you're knowing what parts to remove, what parts to loosen up, how tight things need to be, again, for best practices, you have to check the owner's manual on torque specifications, and safety is always very important. Use jack stands, use ample support underneath the vehicle. You don't want this to be any kind of an injury-related DIY problem. But these kind of things are very easy to do at home, and it doesn't cost me a penny. It takes maybe an hour of my time just to take off the wheels, get everything ready, and away you go. So if you guys have any more questions, let me know. I hope this was helpful. Anybody who's willing to tackle this, if you change out parts, for example, ball joints, steering components, at least this is enough to get you to the alignment shops, and you might be surprised on how accurately you can actually get these alignments to drive down the road without having to worry about tire wear, without having to go to the alignment shop and pay money if you don't have to. You just need a little bit of patience, a little bit of knowledge, and it's not really hard at all. So thanks again guys for watching. This has been Yotso on the Yotso Tech Tracks YouTube channel, and this was just a quick, easy demonstration on my DIY front wheel alignment. So thanks guys for watching. See you next time. Take care. Bye bye.